government nationalized the airline in 1953. After the decision, Tata Sons chief Ratan Tata welcomed the decision by saying, "Welcome back Air India." Ratan Tata said in a statement, "The Tata Group winning the bid for Air India is great news. While admittedly it will take considerable effort to rebuild Air India, it will hopefully provide a very strong market opportunity to the Tata Group's presence in the aviation industry." On an emotional note, Air India, under the leadership of Mr. J.R.D. Tata, had at one time gained the reputation of being one of the most prestigious airlines in the world. Tatas will have the opportunity of regaining the image and reputation it enjoyed in earlier years. Mr. J.R.D. Tata would have been overjoyed if he was in our midst today. Ratan Tata also thanked the central government for the policy of opening selected industries to the private sector. It is hoped that the Maharaja will regain its past glory after this move. With Ajay Mishra, Bureau Report, DT India.
So that brings us to In Focus tonight, and we're going to be discussing this. Tata's win bid for Maharaja. Tata's win bid for Maharaja. And to discuss this, we have with us Jitendra Bhargava, aviation expert, former executive director of Air India, and Deepshika Sikarwar, senior editor of the Economic Times. Thank you very much for being with us. Mr. Bhargava, let me start with you. So it is a happy day for those who feel that there's a future now for Air India, but you've also been associated with its past. So, I mean, what would you say? I mean, how do you view today? The airline is 60,000 crore rupees in debt. Ratan Tata says it's going to be a difficult task. I mean, there must be mixed feelings, I suppose.
Well, it is a historic decision, undoubtedly. And as one who has worked for Air India and written a book, The Descent of Air India, I was looking forward to this day, because disinvestment was the only way out to ensure that Air India does not fly into oblivion. The amount of debt, as you have pointed out, your report gave, it was just too large for any single entity to really manage.
Yes.
The government of India was pumping in money because I have no hesitation in saying they were not taking necessary measures to ensure that the losses are stemmed or there is seriousness in it. So the only way out was disinvestment, and I'm glad that the government was determined this time to ensure that the disinvestment exercise was a success, and it has been, notwithstanding the fact that in the pandemic, the aviation industry has taken a huge beating. The finances of airlines are in the doldrums. But Tata's, through the due diligence that they conducted of Air India, has naturally seen a lot of value. I have often stated and gone on record to say that Air India may not have been as good an airline as one was expecting it to be, but it was also not as bad an airline it was made out to be very often. Now, Tata's, what they get on the platter is a large global network, because no Indian carrier flies to United States, Europe, Japan, Australia besides Air India. So what Tata's get on a platter is a huge international network on which they can build. Right. And Tata's have the wherewithal to build. Because in the last decade or so, when finances were bad, cost-cutting measures were introduced which had a direct consequence on the product quality.
Yes.
Now, product quality, when you compromise on it, naturally you lose passengers. And with this kind of a state, Tatas are taking over. A lot of people are asking whether Tata will be able to turn around. Well, yes, they have the visionary leadership, they have professional managers, they have the desire, and more importantly, Air India is a creation of J.R.D. Tata. And J.R.D. Tata, during his time, when he was at the helm of Air India, from 1953 to 1978, ensured that Air India was recognized as one of the greatest airlines in the world. Right. So there is no reason why a professional leadership, visionary leadership, improved work culture, infusion of money will not give Air India the kind of stature it once commanded. There is also an underlying message in it.
Okay.
Well, the government of India has disinvested Air India, but if you really look into it, 1953, 1978, when Air India acquired the glorious, in those glorious days, it was still a government airline. The only difference was that you had a visionary leader at the helm, unlike the recent past, where government in its wisdom felt that Indian administrative service officers would be good enough to manage Air India. And as the DPAM secretary said it in his press conference, 1,10,000 crores have been injected since 2009. My simple question as a past Air Indian is, who was helming the airline during this period?
Okay.
The bureaucrats. Now, government ought to
Right.
have realized it much earlier that Air India management is beyond their control. They should have accelerated the pace of disinvestment, though the 2017-18 exercise was a flop. But now the government had learned its lesson that instead of saying that we are going to retain 24% equity
True, it
and
was obviously a very,
76%, this time around,
comprehensive
they went into
exercise, as you
100%
said, with
disinvestment.
lots of due diligence involved. Let's bring in Ms. Sikarwar. So the Tatas is already in the aviation space. They have, with Singapore Airlines, they run Vistara, and they also have a stake in AirAsia with AirAsia, which is a Malaysian company. So, I mean, how do you see it? It's looking to consolidate, obviously, and become a larger player in the global aviation space. But this is a difficult business, it seems, and you know it requires very tight management to try and make profits.
Definitely. From the government side, this is definitely a huge movement forward in its privatization drive. For Tata's, definitely